Hello, comrades. Today we are going to be continuing our read um The Young Lords, a Radical History. But as always, we'll begin with reading the Statement of Unity first before we get to the book. So here it is. I hope everyone can see this perfectly, and I will begin reading the Statement of Unity. Preface. The U.S. was founded as a colonial settler state based upon white supremacy and slavery, stealing the lands of the indigenous nations, breaking every treaty made with them, and confining them to quote-unquote reservations, concentration camps. As the country became more powerful, the ego sunk its claws into other nations, making war on Mexico and grabbing its northern territory, invading Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the Philippines, and either annexing them outright or making them into colonies or neo-colonies. And in the 20th century, it became the major imperialist power in the world, exploiting both the people within its boundaries and those in every other country, bullying them with military intervention, and robbing them of their right to self-determination. As P. Newman stated, we have two enemies to fight, racism and capitalism. Between the two, capitalism is primary. Racism is a byproduct of capitalism. The working people of the world of every ethnicity or nationality face a common enemy that is destroying life on Earth. Our enemy is a small ruling class of property owners controlling most of the world's wealth and resources. We must have our basic needs met to live a good and meaningful life. Food, shelter, healthcare, education, freedom from the oppression of the state, and peace with other nations. To obtain these essential things for life, we must have the power to see to it that the abundance that's available is shared equitably. Statement of Unity for the Second Rainbow Coalition. The legacy of the First Rainbow Coalition dates back to its founding on April 4th, 1969, by the original Black Panther Party, original Young Lords, and Young Patriots organization. A number of other organizations joined this coalition not too long afterwards, such as the American Indian Movement, Brown Berets, Rising Up Angry, the Red Guards, and others. Since the founding of the United States, the Mass have developed a number of popular movements that came together to fight back against this capitalist imperialist system in various ways around particular demands. Nevertheless, none has established a movement quite like the First Rainbow Coalition. This historic movement was the first of its kind that established a model of class struggle like no other. Its charismatic leader, Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois chapter of the original Black Panther Party, stated that at the end of the day, we weren't engaged in a quote-unquote race struggle. He said that it's a class struggle, god damn it. By uniting with the various ethnic communities ethnicities and masses, they were able to bridge the gap between the various ethnic communities that white supremacy had long sought to keep divided. This class solidarity equipped them with the material basis and class consciousness to see their common class condition, therefore, the necessity to form a united front against their common class oppressor, the capitalist imperialist ruling class. The ruling class viewed this as the greatest threat to their class rule and subsequently used the entire repressive forces of the states, police, courts, jails, prisons, and intelligence agencies, etc., in order to crush this emerging revolutionary socialist movement. We refounded the Rainbow Coalition on May 14th, 2021, with the intent of upholding the legacy of the original Rainbow Coalition. We believe that this historic example is the model for the United Front that will best serve our class liberation. By upholding the template and program of the original Black Panther Party, which was subsequently adopted and later expanded by the original Young Lords, Young Patriots organization, and all other original Rainbow Coalition members, we established our pragmatic unity. The 6 disciplinary rules that we uphold ties all organizations in our coalition to a common professional discipline. History has bestowed upon our generation a common class mission to fulfill. The representatives of the capitalist imperialist ruling class, represented by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, cannot liberate us. It is their class intention and class interest to uphold our common class oppression. Therefore, it is only we, the oppressed masses of all ethnicities and nationalities, who must build the necessary class solidarity, class consciousness, organizational structures, and a united front that will ultimately liberate ourselves. This is what the Second Rainbow Coalition is committed to. This is the historic mission we intend to fulfill. Dare to struggle, dare to win. All members of the coalition: New African Black Panther Party, Green Party of New Jersey, Poor People's Army, La Mesa Nacional de Brown Berets, NASL, North Alabama School for Organizers, New Era Young Lords, and American Indian Movement Northeast Woodland Chapter. The six disciplinary rules. Number 1, members will conduct themselves in a manner to bring credit to the coalition and will treat others with respect and politeness. Number 2, members will be sober when on Rainbow Coalition business and will not engage in any criminal activity while a member. Number 3, no member will engage in violence except in the extremity of self-defense. Number 4, no members will not gossip nor be divisive to the unity of the Second Rainbow Coalition. Number 5, members will not act as informers nor work against the purpose of the Second Rainbow Coalition. And number 6, nobody is authorized to speak for the Second Rainbow Coalition unless authorized to do so. And that is the statement of duty. And with that, I will begin. Sharing the book. Let me just find it. All right, there it is. Also, Comrade Che, since you said your eyes weren't doing so good, you don't have to read it. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. So
I'll read
just letting you
some of it.
know.
I'll read a little bit, you know.
Gotcha.
When it starts hurting my eyes, then I'll let you know. You take over.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure. It's page 109. Okay, let me just pull up the book. Oh, not that. No, not that either. Where is it? Where's the book? There it is. So page 109. Oh, we went a little bit too far. All right, there we go. First, let me just recheck. So let me just recheck. 109 to 125. Okay. Come on. There we are, 109. Okay. I'm going to start screen sharing right now. And today I'm going to make you co-host. So in case if you see anyone that's trying to join, you can join them. You can let them in. So I'm going to make you co-host. There we go. So let me start. So screen share. All right, there we go. Can you see this, Comrade Che?
Yeah, I can see it right there. Right there. Yeah.
So do you want to read first or do you want me to read first?
Let me read first and you finish it off.
Gotcha.
Okay. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, garbage politics from above and below. The success of the garbage offensive was due in part to its timing. As the young laws dumped garbage and attacked the press, the 1969 mayoral election race between incumbent Republican Mayor John Leslie and Democratic challenger Mario Procacino grew more heated. While the young laws did not focus on electoral politics, this time they got lucky. The visibility of the garbage offensive had advanced the issue of sanitation in public discourse. By the end of the summer, as organized pressure mounted, The city's sanitation became a major issue in the run-up to the election in November. Accordingly, the majority candidates felt pressure to respond to the problem with concrete solutions to gain votes and support. When Procasciano wrote a position paper on what it would take to keep the city streets clean, recommending a 1,000 person increase in sanitation personnel, a defensive Leslie launched a special counterforce. He called first for 1,100 and later 1,300 sanitation men to work overtime for the 4 Sundays of September to clear lots, remove household bulk, and sweep and wash New York streets. Just months earlier, Mayor Leslie press release has been heightened and even marked the seriousness of the garbage protests. And one explained that in addition to the garbage, the city had to contend with among other things, the sudden invasion of capitalism. Oh, no, I'm not, invasion of caterpillars that have no desire to dine on space age men because their appetites are strictly vegetarian. The shift to this Sunday cleanup experiment was swift and had an air of desperation about it. It's evidence of how quickly the East Harlem protest has amplified a broader grievance in the city and made garbage a matter of legitimate mayoral concern. And following the young law's successive days of garbage protests in mid-August, the Department of Sanitation succeeded to 3 meetings with the Puerto Rican community, where representatives of the young laws presented their demands. The assurance that community concerns will be addressed was delivered without any concrete plans. However, more garbage collection was ordered by the mayor's office. The young law's tactics of creative disruption generated a fascination with his activism amongst East Harlem's residents. East Harlem residents and movement activities. Ultimately, the Young Lord organization hoped that its action will give Puerto Ricans confidence in the idea that problems in the community will be successfully addressed through collective and militant struggles. In assessing the Young Lord's work, Chairman Felipe Luciano explained, the people saw that once they took to the streets to demand the redress of their grievance, they will get an answer to their problems. And the answer was pickup. So it was effective and it was a victory for us. That was the beginning. The first formal campaign by the Young Laws Organization. The day-to-day constancy of the Young Laws 2-month-long campaign demonstrated to East Harlem residents that they were serious, committed, and dependable. The group thus began to develop bonds of trust, key ingredients to community organizing. The defense of Ildefonso Santiago at the police precinct also began to establish the Young Laws standing in East Harlem as tough leaders and defenders of the rights of the community. The Young Laws were naturals in pulling together creative and deep-reaching protests in northern urban centers. They did so at the same time that the effectiveness of protest strategies were being debated. Without the Young Laws' knowledge and the broader movement, even Martin Luther King grappled with the matter as he explained in 1967. Marches are unsound for big cities because they are absorbed in the rapid pace of human life. To have effect, we will have to develop mass discipline forces that can remain excited and determined without dramatic conflagrations to this to you gotta take over, bro. My eyes are stopping, right?
Of course, comrade, of course. No worries. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure to dislocate the functioning of a city without destroying it can be more effective than a riot because it can be longer lasting, costly to the society, but not want only destructive. We reject both armed insurrection either for shock value or conquest, along with weak pleas to insensitive governments. Mass civil disobedience can use rage as a constructive and creative force. White decision makers may care little about saving Black people, but they must care about saving their cities. By blocking traffic with East Harlem East Harlem's uncollected garbage, the Young Lords' direct action protest captured the imagination of neighborhood residents, interrupted the operation of one of the city's major transportation arteries, and shamed government officials into action. Garbage dumping demonstrations were not necessarily new in the city. There had been a variety of one-time garbage protests in New York in the earlier years, but their effectiveness had been minimal. They were memorable for nearby residents, but then inevitably the sanitation trucks came, the dumped garbage was cleaned up, and life continued. In contrast, the sustained nature of the Young Lords' efforts led to coverage of the garbage dumping protests in a series of New York Times articles, which in turn led the newspaper to identify sanitation as a major issue in the election. The unrelenting dumping protests drew the attention of the mayor's office, which sent Puerto Rican aide Arnie Sagara to meet with the Young Lords on multiple occasions. Unwilling to be moved out of their path of creative urban disruption, the Young Lords refused to sit down with Segara, who they sensed was sent to co-opt their emerging movement. It won't be surprising.
Yeah.
According to one of Lindsay's key aides, Barry Godahir, whatever.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, we were able to keep a connection to other community groups through war on poverty money, but the Young Lords were very serious about their militancy and independence. We had to fight to get them to sit down with us. A combination of campaign promises and targeted pressure by muckrakers like the Young Lords eventually compelled local government to pose systemic solutions to a systemic problem. In consultation with urban policy specialists, the Department of Sanitation launched a more scientific approach to the crisis. It, quote unquote, introduced efficiency standards for mechanics, launched a new hoist compactor system of collection, decentralized repair operations, and improved dumping schedules. Garbage trucks were assigned specific dumping schedules twice a day rather than once a day, which reportedly increased the output of garbage dumping from between 6 and 7 tons of 9 tons per day per truck. During this period, the department that introduced the systemic use of plastic garbage bags rather than metal cans for the disposal of trash, which helped mitigate the strewn garbage that the sanitation men were infamous for leaving behind. According to the department's report, the garbage bags also, quote unquote, save time and wear and tear on their bodies because the, quote unquote, elimination of the double trip to curb by the sanitation's men. In consultation with the public, the department also overhauled its sweeper routes and schedules by switching from an undependable 3 times a week collection, which was stretching the department beyond its capacity, to a dependable and timely twice a week collection. The department made up for the fewer pickups by adding a thorough street cleaning and an improved bulk pickup service. In 1971, for example, the city came up with its current alternate side of the street parking system, which it then called an quote unquote effective city wide parking enforcement program, meant to facilitate regular street cleaning. If in 1969 the department was only meeting 77% of the refuse collection schedule on any appointed day, in 1972 this figure had gone up to 97.8%. Really
Let
fucking
me
good.
read, let me read this. Let me read this part.
Of
Let me
course.
take, let me take, you know, see what happens with my eyes is that too much of the light, it burns my eyes, and I'm gonna be going to the doctor tomorrow, so there's no problem. Let me read, let me continue reading.
Comrade, let me do something first. Let me see. Do you see my screen lower? Like, did the light go down or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, yeah, that's good right there. You want me to start?
Yeah, sure.
A year later, in August 1970, no, Governor Nelson Rockefeller, you motherfucker, you, wrote a letter to Mayor Lynchly addressing the problem of solid waste collection and disposal. The letter announced an emergency urban cleanup program that will be financed by New York State. The governor explained that although sanitation is a responsibility of local government, I think we have reached the point where collectively we can no longer tolerate the accumulated refuse and rubbish that blight some areas of our large cities all over the state. Such conditions were serious threats to the health and safety of the people, and therefore have become a matter of state concern. Following this initiative, however, in consultation with the Department of Health, the Department of Sanitation identified 186 blocks in the South Bronx and Harlem and in need of emergency cleanup. These blocks were selected on the basis of field surveys that identify areas exhibiting acute problems of garbage accumulation and rodent infestation. On the surface, the Young Law's strategic and irrelevant campaigns resemble those espoused by Saul Alinsky, father of modern community organizing. But Alinsky had a narrow conception of community work. Labor journalist David Moberg captured its logic succinctly. Don't talk ideology, just issues. Build organizations, not movements. Focus on runnable goals. By contrast, the Young Lords were well bent on bridging all those worlds. On garbage offensive vested, the newly minted New York chapter of the New York Young Lords organization with valuable experience. The group experimented with the ways of linking local grievance to fight for such systematic change, and in the process involved thousands of people in urban guerrillas action. Long before the daily practice of members of Young Lords linked the refusal of local governments to resolve basic problems of city life to the logic, interests, and priorities of the larger structures of capitalism and colonial rule the world over. The contradiction between the two, they argue, could only be resolved through revolution. According to young Lord Juan Gonzalez, the garbage offensive was critical in making it clear to us that we had to be involved in concrete issues that affected people's daily lives, that you just couldn't just, I don't know how to pronounce that word, proselytize about revolution without having some kind of impact on the day-to-day lives of people. The lesson was carried over to the lead poisoning, tuberculosis, and other work in the hospitals. In the words of radicals of the period, the Young Lords put their bodies on the line, evaded police arrests that could have hampered their continued presence and activism in East Harlem, and set an example for others to follow. As the garbage of action of the Young Law organization received increasing local coverage by mainstream media networks, and as a group involved greater numbers of people in their protests, the Young Laws grew in size. Their effectiveness was observed immediately. As Gonzalez puts it, we could see it right away because people started saying, "Hey, I want to join." More and more people wanted to join, and they didn't necessarily all want to join for the right reasons. Some people had been in other gangs and thought, "Hey, this is an even better gang." We began to realize that this was touching a nerve. We easily triple or quadruple in size in a period of a few weeks. However, in addition to gaining new members and dozens of supporters who joined them in the protest, including the group's martial arts instructor and important cadre, Jose Pi Diaz. The Young Law's urban disruption also made them a target for surveillance by both FBI and New York Police Department. Both law enforcement agencies began to track Young Law activities as early as 1969. Organizing with determination and a creative flair among the highlight political pressures of an election season, the Young Laws positioned themselves not only to gain the respect of their community, but also to score victory and raise their profile in the city. Within 3 months, the group had established organizing credibility to almost daily attract interactions with the people of East Harlem in the same blocks that year earlier had been one of the major sites of the East Harlem riots. The success of their first campaign gave the group a confident start and propelled its leadership to restructure the organization and take on greater challenges. In September, the group moved to formalize its presence in East Harlem by establishing a storefront office between South 112th Street and Madison Avenue. The Young Laws established a division of work whereby different members specialize in distinct areas of concern, such as community health and political education. These changes allow the group to launch several campaigns simultaneously and involve large members in the process. The organization's new division of labor also permitted its subgroups to devise campaigns on their own, which facilitated the development of leadership amongst its membership and lets newcomers feel a part of an organization they could help shape. The law's garbage offensive challenges the law's garbage offensive challenges the malign image of urban radicals as angry people of color who engage in creating senseless attacks against a society that had begun to ground reforms in the form of anti-discrimination legislation, for example. Rather, the garbage offensive speaks to the kind of humility and dedication that was a hallmark of Young Law's organizers, and by extension of late 1960 urban radical politics. And I gotta stop now. I can't read no more. You can take it over, bro. Conrad.
No problem, Comrade Che. Where did you stop again?
Rather the garbage offensive right there.
Gotcha. Okay, first off, I'm going to see how many pages we need to read again because I forgot how many pages we need to read. So let me just remember what page we're on. Let me take a screenshot. Okay. So let me just see what page do we need to read again. Yeah, I was right. Page 125. I just wanted to double check just to make complete sure. Okay. Sorry about that. So we're on page 113, if I remember correctly. All right. Okay. So I just pulled it back up. So screen share. Okay, there we go. Do you see this, Jay?
Yeah.
All right. Rather, the garbage offensive speaks to the kind of humility and dedication that was a hallmark of Young Lords organizing, and by extension of the late 1960s urban radical politics. In addition, in the public imagination, 1960s movements built up people of color, North and South, continued to be associated with grievances around racial discrimination and exclusion, narrowly defined. However, the Young Lords garbage protest is but one example of the myriad of social and economic issues that animate activists of color in cities across the nation, especially in those outside the South. But the campaigns of radicals such as the Young Lords combine protests of racism and its structural manifestations with links to broader social problems. Yep, that's how you educate. That's how you educate and radicalize the people, make them apply dialectical and materialistic analysis of their society and how everything is interconnected. In this case, their efforts raised standards of society services and government accountability that produce reforms that benefit people of all classes and races in New York. The Young Lords stood up against the idea that because the people of East Harlem were predominantly colonized people from Puerto Rico, they could be ignored, pushed around, and treated like garbage by members of the sanitation department, the police, and the local elected officials. Part of what the Young Lords built in East Harlem was their garbage offensive was an affirmation of the right of Puerto Ricans to be treated with dignity and respect. Yep. And now we're on to chapter 4. Chapter 4, building blocks. The success of the garbage offensive emboldened the Young Lords. No longer a fly-by-night organization, they were suddenly heroes, steadily taking a root in the community. It was time for them to find a more permanent home. In the waning days of summer, Central Committee member Juan F. Ortiz began scouting neighborhood cities sites for their headquarters. They settled on a cheap storefront rental in the vicinity of their garbage dumping protest at 1678 Madison Avenue between 111th and 112th Streets. The Young Lords' brick and mortar presence aroused curiosity about what the group might do next. It also generated a sense of among local residents that the office might be a good place to register local grievances and find avenues for redress. The Young Lords had committed themselves to a community racked with social problems. Their undertaking would require consistency, deep commitment, and focus, not to mention a lot of work. To meet the challenge, the Central Committee set out to shore up the group's capacity by reproducing the pre-existing model of organization established by the Black Panther Party and the Chicago Young Lords. In the fall of 1969, members of the new era of the New York Central Committee also drafted the Young Lords' 13-point program and platform, a vision statement modeled after the Black Panther Party's similar named document that classified the group's political orientation and worldview. Those close adaptations spared the New York Young Lords the lengthy process of developing an organizational structure and accelerated the integration of new members into the group. They also freed up its leadership to explore target issues, identify goals, and develop organizing strategies for the series of early campaigns that imbued the Young Lords with its distinctive essence. The group launched its revolutionary startup at the tail end of the decade-long process of radicalization. By 1969, the era's political assassinations, urban rebellions, and deadly anti-war campus protests had drawn new waves of young people into the movement. They showed a high degree of consensus with that U.S. society was irrevocably broken. The Young Lords formed part of the small but committed cohort of young people across the country that responded to the developments with a structural critique of racism, capitalism, and war. And there is some pictures how Harvard, Berkeley, et al. Set up the Indonesian massacre civil war in Ireland, Middle Earth art, and so on and so forth. There we go. This radical cohort also represented a vision of a new society, which it argued could only be achieved through revolutionary leadership and organization. East Harlem, with its disproportionately youthful population, seemed ripe for the emergence of a new indigenous revolutionary movement. 2 years earlier, its youth had demonstrated a fierce spirit of dissent as the protagonists of New York's second and final urban uprising of the decade. Sorry about that. But the growing legitimacy of revolutionary ideas at home, combined with the loss of U.S. authority abroad, intensified local and federal campaigns of repression against political activists and their organizations. So let me just wanted to check. In this context, the Young Lords developed a two-pronged approach to organizing. They implemented strict membership rules designed to shield the organization from the worst aspects of state disruption and infiltration. They also sought to maintain connections to the broadest audience possible through a series of issue-based campaigns that allowed for community participation with various levels of commitment to the organization. One of the Young Lords' most innovative initiatives involved a community-led police watch operation designed to deter gratuitous police abuse in the neighborhood and avoid arrest of community participants or the singling out of Young Lords. Beyond their work on sanitation, the Young Lords turned their attention to other problems of public health. Earlier in the fall, the group launched its first children's breakfast program alongside the Black Panthers. It also joined the welfare mothers in their battle against the decade's first round of state and federal budget cuts to social services. The office. While the Young Lords were signing a lease for a 200 monthly rental of a storefront office and a September 1969 move-in date, the FBI met secretly with their prospective landlord. This was likely part of an attempt to expand the state's network of informants, gain on-site access to Young Lords headquarters, and facilitate efforts to tarnish the Young Lords' budding reputation. The FBI faced a stumbling block, however. The Young Lords had already won the hearts of the minds of some of their new neighbors. When they sought cover from police during the garbage offensive, East Harlem residents had opened their apartment doors to Young Lord radicals. During the Young Lords' move into their new office, neighbors were helping them furnish. As young Lord Carlito Rovira recalls, a local superintendent donated, quote unquote, the old mesa table around which people gathered as soon as they walked in. The group refurbished, quote unquote, old broken chairs, coffee tables, and stolen Volkswagen seats donated to us by some of the gatos, drug users in the neighborhood. Within a few weeks, as they established relationship with, and there's a picture, local healthcare workers, the office had doubled as an informal clinic. quote unquote doctors, nurses, medics, and ambulance drivers who sympathize with us would donate the medicine. Oh boy, I'm probably going to put just ahí. Ahí había medicina de cuenta madre había.
Good, good, man.
There was medicine in there of all kinds. We even had the thing to wet and wrap around you to make a cast. Yeah. And no young lords walked around with broken shoes because people used to donate all the time. Excuse me. In his 2003 memoir, that's the year that I was born in. In his 2003 memoir, We Took the Streets, young Lord Mickey Melendez describes the spirit of the community that helped launch the office. After organizing the office, the logical next step was to clean the sidewalk in front and then clean up the whole block. We never lacked volunteers. They came with their brooms or asked us to assign them one, quote unquote. The relationship was reciprocal. East Harlem's Young Lord's office became a place where neighborhood residents stopped by, some likely with hesitation to learn more about the organization or ask for help with a range of problems, from welfare disputes and housing eviction notices to help with translation at a parent-teacher meeting. Yep. The Young Lords were now paying rent, reproducing flyers and educational materials with mimeograph machines in their office and traveling to participate in the city's wide array of political events. Sustaining this presence would require money. They appealed to individual donors and more established left organizations for resources. They also raised funds through a series of public events, including concerts featuring well-known East Harlem salsa artists such as Ray Barreto. As word circulated within movement circles that the Puerto Rican radicals who had set uncollected garbage aflame in the middle of 3rd Avenue had opened an office in East Harlem, support poured in from beyond the local community. Liberation News Service, the major news gathering outlet of 1960s movements, announced the opening of the office and appealed for quote unquote office equipment, money, and anything useful. Before long, leftists were delivering financial donations, political posters, and flyers to the Young Lord's office. According to Carlito Rovira, quote unquote, every square inch of wall in the office was covered with posters of Che Guevara, Fidel, Don Pedro, Frantz Fanon, Marx, Lolita, Lebron, and Malcolm X. Fucking hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. On their office walls, the Young Lords also captured prints of emerging Puerto Rican artists whose art collective and next door printmaking workshop, Taylor Boricua, inserted the Puerto Rican experience into the era's political art movements. To make their headquarters a vibrant neighborhood institution, the Young Lords are engaged in an array of party building and advocacy activities. The number and diversity of which was a product of many individuals' full-time organizing. And there's a poster of Malcolm X. Efforts. Spurred by growing belief in the possibility of revolutionary change, the organization's core leadership and general membership had officially dropped out of college to concentrate on party building. Many lived collectively, while younger recruits like Juan F. Ortiz and Carlito Rovira were already high school dropouts who still lived with and were supported by their parents. The office was open most days from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sorry, something in my eye. There we go. Its telephone number, 212 212-427-7754 was emblazoned on the storefront window and printed on flyers and literature. The phone rang off the hook. The office was staffed with morning, afternoon, and evening work shifts, each of approximately 10 young lords, and managed by a rotating office of the day, OD. The OD coordinated and distributed information and assigned tasks of the cadre, who traveled in pairs to answer calls from community residents or organizers requesting the presence of the young lords at citywide events. Um, at least two persons were routinely assigned to office security amid mounting party building and organizing activities. The OD position required a high level of organization to respond to activities. The OD position required a high level of organizing to respond to the constant flow of information and demands. It also required someone who commanded respect. The OD ensured that members showed up for shifts on time. When members were late or failed to carry out the work of the organization, the OD dispensed discipline, laps around the block. Damn. The position would later grow into a site of power and influence outside the Central Committee. The office was the organization's center of gravity, the place from which members were deployed to engage with neighborhood residents or the broader movement in New York. In the fall of 1969, the chance arrest of a young lord at a welfare rights demonstration hastened the group's alliance with the growing ranks of the welfare rights movement. On September 9th, 1969, Carlito Rovira was headed to the office from his parents' home in Manhattan's Lower East Side when he encountered approximately 200 welfare mothers, some of whom he recognized as his neighbors, blocking traffic on 6th Street and Avenue C. They were demanding the restoration of a $25 school clothing allowance for the children of welfare clients, the latest loss in benefits since the New York State legislature announced a $25 million reduction in welfare appropriations earlier in that summer. Yep, not surprised.
Let me take it from there.
Of course.
Okay. Without giving it a second thought, Carlito decided to delay his trip uptown to stand with those women. Historically, welfare relief had been disproportionately afforded to white women who were widowed or abandoned by their husbands and whom caseworkers deemed morally fit and good mothers. But with the 1965 passage of federal legislation that barred discrimination in employment and delivery of public services, poor women of color who had previously been doomed on worthy gained access to welfare benefits in significant numbers. Only a couple of years later, a growing number of them were taken to the streets in a classic case of radicalization. The consequence of dashed hopes in the face of their greater confidence and raised expectations for economic independence. Their grievance deepened in the late 1960s when federal and state legislation cut spending and social programs to offset the crisis of stagnation. The usual combination of economic stagnation accompanied by inflation, which economists linked to the government deficit produced by public spending on the Vietnam War. The response in New York included protests by thousands of poor women of color who joined dozens of coordinated civil disobedience actions, including school boycotts, disruption of welfare centers, clashes with police, and sit-ins on bridges, scrap a citywide revolt. Meanwhile, at the national level, The welfare rights movement highlighted the crisis of poverty across the country, expedited the notion of welfare as clarity, exposed the risk of starvation under the program's poverty food allotment, and campaigned for guaranteed adequate income. As poor women of color joined the movement leadership and rank and file in large numbers after 1965, they brought forth other grievances in local speeches and congressional testimonies. The growing representation of women of color in the welfare roles triggered a contentious and racially coded backlash almost immediately in a public debate that depicted them as lazy, promiscuous, and prone to cheating the system. In response, the women of color elevated issues of dignity above theirs. The stories of hardship challenge the shame and stigma attached to welfare relief and the conduct of caseworkers who criminalize them with racist contempt as they pry into their homes, looking to take away their benefits on the pretext of suspected illicit relationship and welfare fraud. Like the Young Laws, women on the welfare rights movement were challenging the era's new racist representation. You gotta take it now. Now you gotta take it, bro. Got my eyes already.
Gotcha, comrade. Unlike the Young Lords, women in the welfare rights movement were challenging the era's new racist representations, which blamed poor people of color for their economic conditions. A fucking course, fucking racist. Sorry, what, comrade?
No, I was talking about our granddaughters here, sitting down next to me, listening to me read.
Gotcha. Hell yeah. Welcome, comrade.
Say, ¿cómo
but
está? ¿Cómo está?
¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo te sientes? What did she say?
She said good. She's
Nice.
learning a little Spanish. She's learning a little English.
Gotcha. Nice, nice. But I'm going to continue reading. Which blamed poor people of color for their economic conditions. These tropes doubled as the ideological bulwark of backlash to civil rights gains. They overlooked the structural roots of the new urban poverty that disproportionately affected new migrants to the city and were beyond their control. Immediately after Carlito joined the Welfare Mothers Lower East Side action, police charged the demonstration like a herd of buffalo, dispersed the crowd, pounded them to the ground, and arrested them. Fucking disgusting. I was one of the only males there. I was ununiformed. I was uniformed, and since the Black Panthers were strong and in the Lower East Side, they probably thought I was the Panther. That evening, Carlitos and his father registered a complaint at the Tombs, the jail where he was being detained, and the 14-year-old walked out to a boisterous crowd of welfare mothers waiting to receive him. Back in East Harlem, the Young Lords had been worried about Carlito, who never skipped reporting to the office to get his day's assignment. The next morning, they were relieved to read about his. They were relieved to hear about his arrest in the papers and finally see him arrive in the office, battered but alive. Moved by what had happened to their comrade and by the continued efforts of welfare mothers to disrupt business as usual, to draw attention to their issues, in September 1969, the Young Lords leadership assigned a group of members to assist those same organizers at PS 15 Elementary School on the Lower East Side. A month later, the Young Lords participated in a larger civil disobedience action in East Harlem led by welfare rights workers who formed a human chain that blocked traffic on the 125th Street and 2nd Avenue entrance to the Triburo Bridge. Also, Comrade Che, just to remind you, check if anyone's waiting to be let in. Because you can do that.
Who's that?
No. I'm just telling you to remember to check if there's anyone in the waiting room
Oh,
to see
yeah.
if there. Do you see anyone?
No, you
Gotcha.
just
Just
up
want.
on the green stuff here?
Yeah. All
No,
right.
I don't see nobody.
The young lords supported them with what was by then their signature action, lining up garbage cans along the bridge entrance. Fuck yeah. After the hour-long bridge blockage, the young lords spontaneously redirected the protesters along 125th Street, Harlem's major thoroughfare, to the neighborhood's welfare grievance office on 7th Avenue, half a mile west to the bridge entrance. According to young Lord Pablo Guzman, rerouting a predominantly Puerto Rican march through Harlem offered an opportunity to counteract the quote unquote divide and conquer game in the colony, in which Puerto Ricans and Black Americans were pitted against each other on the basis of ethnic differences and build class unity among them. Hell yeah. As he put it, quote unquote, everyone's on welfare and everyone's poor, and everyone should be fighting on the same side of the revolution. Not long after the march, the young lords convened a public a public forum at PS 201 for parents and students on community control of their public schools, aided in part by their work with the Lower East Side welfare mothers, many of whom were also involved in New York school reform movement. Legally, largely unexplored in a historiography, history historiogra- I'm trying to pronounce it. Largely unexplored in the historiography of urban 1960s activism, the upsurge of community-based activism led by Black American and Puerto Rican mothers helped anchor routine activities of groups like the Black Panthers and the Young Lords. From Chicago and Oakland to New York, both organizations offered security at civil disobedience actions taken by these women at welfare centers. And their mixture of redemption and vindication, the Young Lords and the Black Panthers collected clothing from quote unquote the av, av, avaricious um, av, avaricious businessmen in the community and distributed it to the poor welfare mothers and others in need. They jointly held free clothing programs on Saturdays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. At the Theater Arts Center on on
Lexington.
on 110th Street between Lexington and Park Avenues. The Young Lords also worked in tandem with the Black Panthers to establish a free daily children's breakfast program at MS Emmaus House and MS House on
MS.
116th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues in East Harlem. Established in the context of solidarity work with welfare mothers, these programs certainly possessed the patriarchal imprint of male provision and protection of women and children. Both the growth of female membership and the members in the Young Lords and groups continued interactions with welfare rights and school reform organizers. Also, Shay, we're almost at the last page, so if you want, you could read the rest
Yeah,
when we get to the end.
let me read the rest.
All right. Let me just finish the sentence first. A dis a di- disproportionate number of whom were women. Gender norms in the organization would soon be challenged, and this is where you start here. Above all,
Okay, above all, the solidarity extended to women of color by the Young Laws and the Black Panthers forged humanistic neighborhood relationships among them that allow mothers to trust that disproportionately male members of these groups to feed and care for their children. These activities created a humanism in the neighborhood that was amplified within the organization. The Young Laws initiated a range of activities that created meaningful work and honoring anticipated challenges. Both cemented bonds of trust and friendships among them. For example, neighborhoods often approach the young laws in the street asking for solutions to problems ranging from police brutality and domestic violence to legal representation in court and lack of hot water. Despite distrust from others in the community who questioned their larger political objectives, the young laws met the demands for work and relationship as a team that grew stronger in the process.
All right. And this is the last page, Comrade Che. This is the last page.
Okay.
If you don't want to read all of that, that's fine.
I'll read it. I'll tell you when I can do it. In September 1969, the young laws began to experiment with neighborhood police watch. The idea evolved out of a relationship the group fostered with many residents of a barrio during the garbage offensive. The young laws Minister of Information, Pablo Guzman, described it as a people's patrol, an underground movement of the people on the block and in the Latin community, similar to the way the Panthers started out in Oakland. The Black Panthers' decision to legally bear arms to protect the dissidents of slaves from police violence challenged the country's deeply rooted power relations. To unstated, the tradition that became enshrined in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution as the right to bear arms has always been understood to apply exclusively to Europeans and their descendants.
Yep.
The reasons are found in the 18th century settler project that became the United States, which rested on the violent appropriation of land for the native people of North America and control of enslaved African labor. In self-defense, the indigenous population responded with an early form of guerrilla war and African organized slave rebellions. In this context, the emerging government weaponized Europeans of all classes, a measure necessary to secure, maintain, and extend the emerging borders of the state. As scholars of North American history, as scholar of North American history, Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. That's the woman I was telling you about. I gave you that book. I forgot the name of the book. With Roxanne, she's a hell of a good author. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz recounts, in 1658, the colony ordered every settler home to have a functionary firearm, subsidized those who couldn't afford them, and find homes without functioning weapons and individuals who traveled to public meetings without them. In time, this became the basis of forced militia and slave patrol inscriptions among white men of all colors. That's what I say, all colors. The Black Panthers armed patrol units therefore touched the nerve. They opened a Pandora box, and its challenge to one of the longest standing building blocks of white supremacy, the Black Panther Party bold action was to destabilize for the state to allow to stand. A tsunami of violent action repression followed, led by police and the FBI counterintelligence program, generally referred to as COINTELPRO. The secret union was established in 1956 to subvert the United States left and other organizations and individuals engaged in protests. In self-defense, aim was to destroy movements by frustrating movement goals and encouraging violent internecine struggles within its organization. By one estimate, 28 Black Panthers were killed in confrontation with police in 1968 and 1969. Still, the Young Laws proceeded to adopt a version of the Black Panther Party police patrol. Unsurprisingly, neighbors looked on looked on with hesitancy. According to Grimsling, the idea gained credibility after wait a minute. Gained credibility after the stabbing death by a brother on the block of the beloved East Harlem resident Mingo and Loco when he tried to intervene in a neighborhood brawl on September 20, 1969. The laws blamed the police for Mingo's death because they let him bleed in the street, did not call an ambulance, and transported him to the hospital in a police car where he died. Mingo was a good neighbor.
Oh, wait, come on, that's it. We reached the end of the page. We were supposed to stop at 125. So you did, comrade. You did it. Nice.
Thank you. See, with me, you know, too much light from the screen. It's sort of like it takes away something from my eyes. It starts burning. My eyes start burning.
No, yeah, of course, man. Don't worry. I mean, hey, you read it all. You did awesome. And man, this whole entire reading was beautiful. Man, once again, I've said before, and I've said again, the new era young lords, in order to radicalize the masses, in order to increase class consciousness, in order to show them that the Vanguard Party gives a shit about them, that's their party, that's the People's Party, that's by the people, to the people, for the people, you need to struggle alongside them. You need to understand their materialistic conditions and their materialistic needs by struggling alongside them, being a part of their materialistic conditions, and giving them what they need, understanding their needs, providing for them. And once they see that these organizational tactics work, once they see that it doesn't have to be this way, once they see that things are, once they see how things could be better for them, then they will apply the ideological and political line of the Vanguard Party. Then they will apply a dialectical, materialistic analysis on their communities, on their society, and understand how everything is interconnected, and understand how nothing is ever static, and how everything is constantly changing, how things were always this way, and to understand the internal contradictions within their society, how they relate to one another, how they affect their materialistic, conditions, class struggle, and how to move class struggle forward, how to combat reactionary sentiments, how to combat bourgeois thought, and how to unlearn and relearn through applying a scientific and critical analysis and engaging in praxis. That's what the new era. That's what the new era. That's what the young lords did right here. They provide for their community by taking out the trash. They build a headquarters where they got calls for social and economic issues to try and resolve, and they help the welfare mothers build solidarity, between oppressed groups to be able to combat all contradictions of capitalism, not just racism, but also misogyny, ableism, queerphobia, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this was awesome, man.
You know, sometimes practice develops theory, you know, and I say that because the young lords took on an activity, the garbage defense offensive, and they took that without even they knew exactly what they're doing. It's just that, you know, the theory itself wasn't fully developed until it was in practice.
Exactly,
that they really started seeing that the garbage offensive brought about a unity of
among the people. Because that's what. Sorry.
Coming out and started engaging themselves in the practice, you know,
oh, yeah.
of helping the young lords develop. And it was through this practice alone, you know, that the system had to make some amends and had to to develop some ways of trying to distract the masses, which they couldn't. By this time, they couldn't do it, but they
Yep.
attempted to, So they came out and they started cleaning the neighborhood. And it's a damn shame, man, when we live in a hell of a country, man, that we have to do these kind of shit in order to get some attention,
Yep.
And that's ridiculous, man.
It is ridiculous.
It became a massive situation. The defensive became a massive situation. A lot of people got involved in it, and I'm glad that they got involved, because today we see the difference.
Yep, we see a difference, and it's like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
No, I was just no, it's okay, you were gonna say something. I'm just getting excited because I really love this discussion. But continue and finish what you're gonna say, comrade.
No, go ahead. As you talk, I develop some ideas. Go ahead.
No, but like I was gonna say, no, yeah, with what you said with theory and practice, because I said before, and I'll say it again, practice changes theory. Because it's the application of theory through practice that enables us to see what we did right, what we did wrong, what's applicable, what isn't, and how to move class struggle forward, and how to better our own theory, how to improve it, and how to apply it again. And then when we make mistakes, we learn how to reapply it and how to change it, how to improve it. It's you need both. You need both theory and practice. You need to engage in observation and participation. You need to engage in engaging in some revolutionary investigation of your community, and then once you understand what they need, once you start gaining perceptual knowledge, until you gain conceptual knowledge of the core root of the problems of your community, then you apply that analysis, then you apply that thought into action, and then based on that action, you determine what you need to change about your thought.
Yeah.
So 100%. First comes the theory, then comes the practice, but the practice then changes the theory.
Yeah. And that's why I always say, a lot of people don't understand Marx, man, because Marx in his own time also was a revolutionary.
Exactly. He was a revolutionary.
He participated, I'm quite sure he participated in various strikes,
The Paris Commune.
Yeah, he was also a member of the what is that? I forgot the name. It was a secret organization. I forgot the name of it. It'll come to me as I talk. But anyway, he organized, and in the book I'm reading, it says that Marx wasn't only a theoretician or philosopher, he was a revolutionary. And
he was a scientist.
Yeah, he was a scientist and he was a revolutionary. He participated in various strikes and various issues, community issues at his time. And that's where he was able to develop the theory that he developed. If it wasn't because of practice, his practice helped him develop his theories.
Exactly. I use this example to always to kind of amplify this to people. When Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were writing the Communist Manifesto, they really didn't understand fully why there needed to be a transitionary period between capitalism to reach communism. They didn't really understand the necessity to form socialism. They didn't really understand that. But guess what happened afterwards? The Paris Commune. The Paris Commune happened. After they saw the Paris Commune, after they saw how it was quickly overtaken by the state, then that is what developed Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' theory, and then they were able to fully understand why there needed to be socialism, why there needed to be a dictatorship of the proletariat in order to defend it and uphold the proletarian revolutionary line. That right there, that's praxis changes theory. They saw the praxis, they saw the Paris Commune, they saw an action, and then that changed their theory and their application of Marxism, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
very true, man. That's why a lot of people, man, back in those days, man, they didn't know, they fully didn't understand the theories of Lenin. Lenin was a
yep,
so Lenin took up Marx, man, and took it to a broader level of understanding, you
and
know.
expanded it. Same with Maoism,
Exactly, you know, and
and then Pantherism.
yeah, yeah. So
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know, as communists, as revolutionaries, we have to constantly be fluid. We have to constantly be adapting our theory to our ever-changing materialistic conditions. Adapt how we adapt how we apply the principles of Marxism, and not only how we adapt it, but how we improve upon it, how we change it. You know,
yeah,
because the theories of Marxist time are not going to be 100% applicable to our time. You know, the materialistic conditions of Lenin's time are not going to be 100% applicable to our time. You know, we have to constantly be expanding and evolving and bettering ourselves, you know?
that's why, man, a lot of people don't understand Marxism because Marxism is forever
Exactly.
changing. You know, it doesn't. It's just like it's like taking a shower every day. If you take a shower every day, you have to change your clothes.
Yep.
You know, and it's the same with Marxism. Marxism on a daily basis is forever changing. It never
Yep.
remains the same. You know, for every
Exactly.
it's like in China, the Chinese Revolution is not the same as the Cuban Revolution, and the
Yep.
Cuban Revolution is not the same as the Chinese Revolution. Neither both of them are the same as the Russian Revolution. You know, so I mean, so when you read Marxism, what you're reading is is the laws of change. That's really
Yep.
what the laws of
I've said
change.
I've said before, Marxism and dialectical historical materialism is the science of revolution and of social change. That's what it is. You know,
Yep, yep.
that's what Marxism is. It's the science of revolution and social change.
And social change. And that's why a lot of people say, how can you study that theory, that Marxism when that was way back in the no, it wasn't way back in the days. What was
Exactly.
back in the days is no longer back in the days, what is now. You know, what is
Exactly. You
Marxism has
know,
come a long way of development, a long way. And
exactly.
it
You
has
know,
further to go.
exactly. You know, as way more to go. You know, and Marxism may have started with Marx, but it went beyond him. You know, Marxism isn't just Marx. You know, it's Leninism isn't just Lenin. Marxism is all of the revolutionaries who expanded upon it and who gave their life to the revolution. That's what Marxism is. It's not
Yeah,
just Marx and Engels, it's everyone.
yeah, that's right. So when you talk about Marxism, really what you're talking about is historical materialism.
Exactly. When you're talking about Marxism, when you're talking about Marxism, when you're talking about Marxism, you're not talking about Marx. You're not talking about one dude. You're talking about a science. You're talking about a science and a way of understanding existence itself and human development. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So Marxism is forever changing, man.
Yep.
And that's what the young Laws and the Panthers they were doing in their time also. You know, studying and practicing what they studied, and it was good. It was good. If they
Hell
would
yeah.
allow, well, I was gonna say they if the system would allow them, but the system never allows anything that's
Exactly.
contrary to their own precepts. You know,
I'll
if you
never allow them.
yeah, if you contrary, if your precepts are contrary to the system precepts, then you got trouble. You got problems.
Exactly.
You know?
To quote Lenin, to quote Lenin, oh wait, I'm trying to find the quote not Lenin, Stalin. I'm trying to find the quote that Stalin said, but the kind of paraphrase. He said that no revolutionary wants bloodshed. No revolutionary wants people to die, but they're given no choice. You know, we have no choice. I don't want people to die. I don't want anyone to suffer or to die. But unfortunately, the bourgeois are giving us no choice. We have to revolt. We have to fight back, and unfortunately, people are going to die because that's war. You know, that's
That's
revolution. It's
that's right.
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, in a revolution, man, people have to die. It's the law, you know, because change would change a lot of things happen. Just like our bodies forever dying. And yet at
Exactly.
the same time, as our bodies forever dying, it's forever living.
Yep.
Renewed by new cells in our system. And so the
Yep.
old cell burns, dies
Opposing
away,
forces.
take up. Yeah, yeah,
Opposing forces. You
opposing
know.
forces. And
You
that's what
know.
life is all about, sis. Life is all
Yep.
about change. It's all
Yep.
about, that's what life is. When we talk about Marx, we talk about change.
Yep.
When
We're
we talk
talking about Marx.
about revolution, we talk about change.
Yep. Someone summed it up really good. Dialectical materialism is the study of change, and is the study of change and existence and motion, while dialectical historical materialism is the study of change and human development. You know, and, you
Very
know, and, you know,
well put. Very well put.
and that's 100% correct. Dialectical materialism is the study of existence itself, of it constantly changing, because existence itself is composed of a unity of opposing forces that are constantly opposing one another. There can't
Yep.
be growth without there being decay. There can't be heat
Yeah.
without there being cold. There can't be motion without friction. There can't be there there can't be push without being a pull. You know, there
Yeah.
that's what existence is all about. It's about opposing forces. It's we're talking about the
It
cells in
can't
our
be.
body. Sorry,
No, go ahead. Finish it.
I was gonna say, and that's a really good point that you brought up. Inside of our bodies, our cells are constantly dying, and but also new cells come. There's that opposing force of our cells
Dialectic.
dying while
That's
new cells are
dialectic.
constantly coming to existence.
Yeah, that's dialectics in motion.
Yep.
Dialectics in motion, man. Everything is in constant motion. Everything is in
Yep.
constant transformation. Society must go forward, and
Exactly.
it's something that we don't want. It's something that has to happen, regardless.
Yep. You
Either we
cannot
do it, somebody else do it, but it
you
has to be
cannot
done. Change has to come, and we have to be part of it. And if we're not part of it, then somebody else gonna take over and be part of it.
exactly. Fascism at the end of the day is capitalism in decay. Fascism is literally fascism is literally the antithesis of class struggle. Because what fascism is, Che? Fascism is trying to turn back the hand of time. That's what fascism is. It's really trying to go back in time.
Exactly.
It's trying to go backwards. It's literally the antithesis of motion and progress in general.
I always say, sometimes I say fascism is the mask of horror, of human horror. Because look what Hitler tried to do, and he was a fascist, so fascism is capitalism, man, trying to practice its most advanced theories on the people, which is suppression, which is, taking people and enslaving them on a more intense level, and practicing what they practice,
Yep.
and under fascism, really, and we get into a point of fascism come to a clarity, because we're seeing it with what's happening now, with between the wars of Ukraine and Russia, which actually is not even the war between Ukraine and Russia. It's a war between NATO and Russia, but they don't say
It's
that.
the war between Russia and Ukraine is a proxy war. That's really it. It's a three-way fascist struggle between the United States, between the Azov battalion, the fascist groups that the U.S. is funding in Ukraine, between Russia and their fascist groups as well. You know, it's literally just three fascist groups against one another. That's literally it. You know,
Yeah.
um, I've said before, and I'll say again. You know, because I have people telling me, also you're pro Russia, also you're pro Ukraine. I am not pro Russia. I am not pro Ukraine. You know who I'm pro for, Che? You know who I'm pro for? I'm pro the Ukrainian Russian people who are being fucked over by this capitalist struggle. That's who I'm pro for. I'm
Yeah.
pro the Ukrainian Russian proletariat. I'm not pro. I'm not pro the state. I'm not pro the Russian state. I'm not for the Ukrainian state. I'm not for the US state. I'm for the people. I'm for the proletarian. I'm for the Ukrainian proletariat. I'm for the Russian proletariat. I am pro the movements within Russia and Ukraine, the Maoist movements in those countries that are combating this fascist upsurgence. That's what I'm pro for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you, man. But we, NATO is behind all this stuff, man. And
Oh no, yeah,
I don't.
they definitely started it. They
Yeah, they
definitely
definitely started. They
you know,
definitely started.
because the only reason why because because the only reason why capitalists and the only reason why imperialists do anything is for one thing and one thing only: profit. That's it. That's the only reason why they ever do anything, because of profit. Why the only reason why the U.S. wants Ukraine to join NATO is so that way they can make profits. It's for it's for Ukraine to trade with them that sweet oil instead of trading it to Russia. That's it. You know, that's only
Yeah.
the only reason why. Not only that, not only that, but they also want to benefit they also want to benefit from these fascist groups whenever they take over, because that's literally
Yeah.
what they did. That's literally what they did with the Nazis. The U.S. companies literally funded the fucking Nazis, and in turn, these U.S. companies benefited from the Nazis enslaving and exploiting non-white groups. Ford, Coca-Cola, Puma, Adidas, and so on and so forth, all benefited from the oppression, exploitation, and subjugation of Jewish people, of Slavic people, of all of these
Yeah.
different non-white groups being thrown into conservation camps. Yeah, literally.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, shoot, you're definitely right, man. I don't
Yep,
know
it's scary as
what
fuck.
I know it's scary, you know, because Russia, well, they're saying that China is involved, but I don't think China is really involved. I think what China is trying to do is 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 trying to benefit itself. I don't know, trying to benefit. China. I mean, most of the merchandise or the merchandise that is in this country comes from China.
Yep,
You know,
everything, mostly everything comes from cheap Chinese labor. Literally, almost everything
yeah,
comes from that. You know, the thing with Russia and China, because like to give nuance to that, right? When it comes to imperialists, right? Imperialists don't have actual alliances. They only have temporary truces with one another. You know, they're only out for themselves and themselves alone. You know, they don't actually care about one another. They don't actually care about each other. They don't. Their alliances, their quote unquote alliances, are only temporary truces, because when one manages to overpower the other, they'll gladly throw away their alliance if it means fucking the other over and becoming more profitable. You know. So when it comes to the whole Russia and China thing, both Russia and China are imperialists. Both of them are against each other because they're out for themselves. They are capitalists. They only want to maximize profit and for their own benefit. However, both of them are against U.S. hegemony. Both of them are against the U.S. as an imperialist superpower in the world. So they may have a temporary truce when it comes to combating U.S. imperialism, but it's not out of a sense of proletarian solidarity. It's just to increase their own interest and their own profits And once the U.S. is no longer a hurdle, they'll just focus on combating each other until one of them becomes the next imperialist superpower. You know, that's the only thing they care about.
Well, yeah, I think you're right on that. I think you're right on that. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know what to say, but the thing is, like getting back to the young laws, man,
Oh yeah, right.
because we tend to everything is related.
Yeah,
Everything we
everything is related.
everything is related. Russia,
Everything is related.
Russia, China, all that stuff is all related because we
Yep.
talk about the young lost, and we talk about the young lost is to talk about struggle. It's to talk about, you know, human struggle, man.
Exactly.
And,
It's all talking about oppression.
yeah, it's talk about oppression. You know, lucky that the young laws, the way they went down, wasn't as much as the Panthers went down because
Yeah.
a lot of Panthers got killed. Not a lot of young law didn't get killed in the struggle. You know what I mean? Only a few of them got killed. And I think it was one of them at the beginning, I forgot his name. He got killed while he was in jail under the detention center. He got killed. And he was a young lord. And so I don't recall any others getting killed as a result.
Yep.
I mean, so I don't know. I don't know.
But but comrade 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 Joe comrade Che, sorry, comrade Che. Um
That's okay. I get confused like that sometimes too.
no, it's fine, it's fine. I get confused. Sorry. I get confused with names, but like, yeah, do you have anything to say more about this chapter that we read, and maybe do you wanna correlate the or maybe do you want to correlate between the young lords of back then and the new era young lords of today? Like
Well, let me say this.
mhm,
The young laws back then and the young laws now are not the same.
of course they're not.
They're not the same. You know, I don't know. I haven't taken much. I haven't really studied the young laws of now, but I don't know. I don't I don't know. I find that there's a lot of differences in their practices, and
Do you find them better?
do I find them better? The
Hmm.
young laws now that as opposed to the young laws back then?
Yeah.
No, I don't find them better. I can't. I'm sorry to say that, but I don't. I just don't find them better. I don't see. I don't see too much militancy that's supposed to be involved, because sometimes, man, it's not only theory that
It's
we need to
praxis.
we need to put practice. Just like the young laws back then, they did the garbage offensive. That was their way of getting touching the base of the people. People woke
Yep.
up and people started coming around when they saw the garbage offensive that was implemented by the young laws. Now I haven't seen anything in the young laws now that has impact and has had an impact in the community. As a matter of fact, I don't even see the relationship between the young laws now and the community. I don't. I just don't see it. And I speak to what's his name? Subi. Subi? That's the chairman. That's the name of the chairman. That's Subi.
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Yeah, that's his name, Subi. I have spoken to him quite on a few occasions also, and he's I don't know. I don't know. He's a good brother, man, and he's trying all his best. Right now he's been going to Puerto Rico to do some work over there, with people, man. But
Oh yeah.
I think that young laws here need to do the same, do some work here. I don't see too much work. If I was to pick up the newspaper, let's say, back then, somewhere down the line, I would read an article of the young laws. Now, if I was to pick up the news, there wouldn't be nothing about the young laws. So I think that the young laws now is more theoretical than they are practical. I mean, I may be wrong, and I hope I am, but
I
don't
think
know.
what goes into it as well. I think a part of it that also goes into it is that for right now, right, we're in the preliminary stage. We're in the early stages of revolution. Obviously, we need to move class struggle forward and implement our theory through practice to better ourselves, and then be critical and self-critical to improve our ideological and political line and further radicalize the masses. But I think something that goes into it right now is that we're still like in the early stages. We're still like in the early stages of the revolution, and even though the young lords weren't may have not been how do I put it? Even though the young lords weren't targeted to the extent that the Black Panthers were, they were still targeted. And
Yeah,
the COINTELPRO still did a lot of damage to them.
definitely, they did a lot of damage. You see, the thing is that I got to see practice. Practice is the vision. If you don't
Yep.
see practice and you see number theory, then you're confused. You don't know what's what. You got to
Yeah.
see practice with theory. And I don't see the young laws of now having any practice, implementing anything in a community that will have an impact. And I'm sure, most their bases out there in Jersey and New Jersey, and maybe because of the neighborhood, I don't know. But I don't see too many young laws in the city of New York, implementing anything. I don't hear nothing. I'm involved. You know who I'm involved with? Carlito Homero. He's the brother that was missing. Remember he was missing. We read about him. Well, I'm in touch with him all the time. Me and him talk just about every other day. And I don't hear him saying anything about the current young laws, what they're doing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to even talk to him and see what's happening, man. What's happening, man, because I don't know, man. I need. You see, people need, just like I'm part of the people. We all part of the people. We need to see something in order to believe in
it. 100%.
In order for you, yeah, go ahead, Colin.
I was just going to say, I was just also going to say, what's one of the things that you what's one of the things that you liked, like I'm trying to like word this, when it came to the New Era Young Lords and their inclusion with the welfare mothers. What are your thoughts on that?
That was good. I think that was definitely good, man. Because,
No, I asked hell yeah.
That was definitely good. The young laws, when we got involved with the welfare system, that was good. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about people, especially Latino women in welfare system. They say they go there, man, to look for money, and that's not true, man. Like welfare mothers are struggling, just like white welfare mothers are struggling,
Yep.
So I think that they getting involved in the welfare system was a hell of a good thing. Because I remember back in the days when my mother was in welfare, we used to visit the welfare department, and will you believe it? Welfare department was very racist. They would treat third-world women like piece of shit, And
not surprising.
Many times, on many occasions, I saw a lot of women in the welfare department screaming and yelling and crying and all that, and begging them, to get them to get them some money so that they could feed their babies and feed their family. So the young laws getting involved in that kind of aspect I think it was a hell of a good move. A hell of a good,
100%. You know,
yeah, yeah.
and, and exactly as they were saying, in there, women of color have been targeted, have been oftentimes targeted and given less welfare benefits than white women. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when the Black Panthers and the air and the Young Lords engaged in their free breakfast program, a lot of the people that came to those programs were mothers with their children. You know, and when they saw the Panthers feeding their children, when they saw how the Panthers were providing for their community, that gave them revolutionary optimism. That gave them hope. That gave them that gave them that gave them the idea that it doesn't have to be this way. You know, that things have to that things can be better than they are now. When you provide for your community, when you struggle alongside them, then they will engage in you. Then they will engage in organizing and class agitation. Then they will engage in dialectical historical materialism and Marxism, you know, and applying the principles of Marxism to their own communities to further radicalize their communities, you know?
yeah. And that's why I say, you know, there's so many issues in our communities that we could get involved in. I haven't seen the young laws of now involved in any of them. I haven't. I just can't see it. Maybe they have been and it's quiet, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm going to talk to Carlito, later on tonight and find out what's happening, man. What's been happening, man.
Right
Because I
on.
don't know. He's involved. He's involved. He's not involved directly, but he's in touch with the chairman, Subi. He's in charge. He's in charge. And I was in contact with Subi for a while too, but I don't know what happened. He went to Puerto Rico and we got lost in the shuffle. You know, but like I said, there's a lot of issues in our communities that need to be dealt with, and I don't see any of it. Just like I don't see too much of it involved, man, with other groups as well. The All African People's Party for Revolution, something like that. I don't see them doing anything either. But that's not for me to say. I let that be, man. My name chair, man, means practice. To me, it means get involved. Get involved. That's what it means. When you get
Right on.
involved, then once you get involved, then you see the theory. Once you get in, once you practice, once you begin practicing, you start seeing the theory in the practice. And that's what I believe in, man. And if you're not practicing what you're supposed to be practicing, then I don't see no theory. And if I don't
Right
see no
on.
theory, I don't see nothing, you know.
I feel you.
Uh, so listen, this was a good conversation.
It was.
Me and you always get involved and we talk, man. I wish that Sister Zen was here also, but unfortunately she isn't, you know. Have you heard from her lately?
Oh, yeah, she's good. She's good. She's had some stuff to do, but no, yeah, she's good. And hey, man, I'm gonna try and get some. I'm gonna try and get some more moderators
Yeah,
for Sunday. So I would say more people can come here because yeah, man, we really need some more people on the Sunday book clubs. You know.
well, I thought Ramen already had done that. That's what I was under the impression. I thought because he told me, so I don't know what date it was there. I said I didn't know if I would make it. He said, well, when you do, man, it's gonna be a new moderator there. I don't remember what date it was, but I'm sure it could have been a Sunday. He was gonna have a new moderator. So I mean, I don't know.
Um, I'm definitely gonna go and see about that. And hey, I'll try picking out my own, moderator as well,
Yeah,
But
exactly, man. Exactly.
yeah, I'm just trying to get more people on here, because it's very hard when it's just me reading.
Yeah,
Um,
I was trying to get into your group. When was it? On Tuesday? Tuesday, right?
yep, it's on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Actually, we're about to finish reading. We're about to finish Wretched of the Earth Man. So I definitely recommend you attend this
Yeah.
upcoming Tuesday.
I was gonna attend this Tuesday. What happened was the lights went out and we was without lights like almost 7 hours. You know, it was
Damn,
crazy. It went out like at 3 o'clock, you know, and it was over.
damn.
You know, 10 o'clock at night is when all the lights come back on. You know, so that's what I say, man. This asshole, whoever he is, he's a fucking asshole, you know, that ain't got nothing to do, you know, other than sticking his fucking fingers in his fucking mouth, you know, sucking his thumb and putting out the lights, you know, when people need them.
That's a dickhead move.
I wish again, I got a grudge. I wish I could find the hell who he is. I'll run him out of here.
Right on.
See, and that's practice. Then once I do that, and once I do that, then everybody gonna say, "Oh shit, you see that guy? What he did? I think that's a good idea."
you know, uh, I said this before, but the world is not ready for three Che's. The world is not ready for three Che's. If one Che can take over a president, imagine what three could do.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Oh, right on. But comrade, this conversation was awesome as hell as usual. I always love your input and what you have to say about stuff. And if there's nothing more to add to the conversation, thank you for coming. Thank everyone who is watching this or who may be watching this, and we will see y'all tomorrow.
No
Bye everyone.
problem.
And as always,
No problem.
all of every power. All
Pa'lante
power to the
siempre.
people.
Pa'lante.
Adelante siempre pa'lante.
Pa'lante.
All
There you go.
power.
You're gonna learn with me. You're gonna learn Spanish much
Oh
better.
hell yeah, because my fucking Gusano parents never fucking really taught me
Yeah.
it.
Okay, comrade. You take care of yourself, huh?
You take care of yourself too, comrade. See ya.
Okay. See ya.